Hey guys, so a quick update on this project. I haven't had a whole lot of time to work on it today, but I was looking at these two boards and they have a little bit different markings on them. This is the extra board and this is the one that came out of the actual Model 30. And this one here is a Revision 1 board, and this one here appears to be a Revision 4 board, assuming I'm reading the numbering right. So even though this was the extra board, it also seems a little bit flakier. There's a little something funny going on with the video. I assume it's just a bad joint on that connector that I'll have to reflow, but you have to wiggle it a little bit sometimes to get the red channel to come on. And this speaker doesn't work. I guess somebody thought it was a knob and tried to turn it. I don't know, but it's broken, so that'll have to be desoldered and replaced with something else. So that in general, plus it being the Revision 1 board, I assume that some issues were fixed on the Revision 4 board. So this is the board that I want to put into the Model 25, since I assume it'll be a better board. And this one will go back into the Model 30 after we've, fixed it up decently. So I did make some discoveries though. Back to our risers. Here's the 8-bit riser for the 8086 Model 25 and the 16-bit riser for the 286 Model 30. Now, according to the schematics that I was looking at, the front part of these edge connectors looked on the schematics to be exactly the same. So I'd read something on the internet where if you tried to plug this card, this expansion riser into this board, the thing wouldn't even start. And but the pinouts looked exactly the same for the front part of that card, so I figured, as long as I made sure that the traces lined up right, or the contacts lined up right, I could plug it into the front of this, and probably use this temporarily until we can make the PC boards to make the 16-bit expansion riser for this thing. So I tried that, and lo and behold, the power supply wouldn't even start up. So I was like, what the fuck, man? So I took it back out, and I started looking, and I discovered something very peculiar. Well, it's not peculiar, but thanks, IBM. So the pinouts on the front part of these connectors are exactly the same, except that the sides are reversed. So what's the front side on this riser is the back side on this riser, and vice versa. The front side on this riser is the back side on this riser. So there is no way to make that work. I thought, well, if it's just one trace, maybe I can do something with one of these. These look like they're not through-hole vias. They look like they're just soldered vias, I thought maybe I could suck the solder out of something to disconnect a pin on here if it was like shortened to ground somewhere, power supply rail to shorten to ground or something, keeping the power supply from starting. But no, they're completely exactly the same but completely opposite. So that's pretty fucking annoying. So yeah, we could go ahead and put this board into the Model 25, but we wouldn't have any way to plug in the sound card for it. I was using this old 8-bit Sound Blaster 2 in this thing, and see what I was doing, since I only had the 2 expansion slots, I needed to run all these different cards on here. So what I did was I got this passive ISA backplane and plugged all these cards in it, and used this 64-pin ribbon cable to go inside one of the empty expansion slots in the back of the machine and plug into the ISA bus. You have to fold this cable like this, and then it plugs into the expansion riser right here, and then you can have all 4 of these cards hooked up. The XT IDE and the sound card, and there's an MDA card in here for dual heading it, and a serial card with a 16550 UART on it, and a bidirectional parallel port for parallel IP. So yeah, that's what I was doing, but I can't even do that. The The only option that we have for a temporary solution is to take a bandsaw and cut the top slot off of this riser, and then it'll probably fit in the Model 25. It won't fit into the bracket though. It'll just be a temporary hack and it'll run this riser. And we don't want to do that because we want to put it back in the Model 30. So, I don't know, man. I'm half tempted to go ahead and put this board into the Model 25 though, because we don't need sound. It's probably already got a bidirectional parallel port on it. Not 100% sure. And we've got this hard drive that actually works for the built-in interface, so I could put that in the extra drive bay and just use the Model 25 like that for now. But I don't think I'll do that. It'd just be a temporary hack, and I'd have to tear it all back apart later. So yeah, I think the main thing that we need to do before we continue the Model 25 part of this project is for me to finish designing the riser for this thing. And I'm going to have to update my footprint files to reflect the fact that this fucking edge connector is backwards on the 286 version. Why would they do that? That's just low down and dirty. You know what I'm saying? Low down and dirty. So before I go, let's talk about 16-bit IDE interfaces. Now this is the IDE controller that was in the Prolinia 486. This is just a very simple one-channel IDE controller that it's got one on the motherboard, but it complained when I tried to use the XT IDE BIOS with it, if you recall from that video. So I ended up having to install this secondary IDE controller so that I could set the internal controller to have no drive on it, so it would quit bitching at me. And then we ran the XT IDE BIOS off of a network card. And so yeah, this is about as simple as you can get for a disk interface. The 16-bit IDE interface is really, it looks like it's really just pretty much an extension of the ISA bus with all of the address decoding done. So what we have here are 3 LS245 tri-state bus drivers. Alright, in a soy package here. And right here is just a 7400, that's what, a 2-input NAND gate, I think. And this is an old school PAL in a PLCC package. So the CF interfaces, I'm not sure what the 2-input NAND gate is for. You'd have thought they could have built that functionality into the PAL, you know what I'm saying? So if we look at the XTCF cards, they've just got a couple of 688 address decoders on them, and their function is entirely to run these switches, I think. And then there's just an LS04 and an LS32. The 04 is what, an inverter, and the 32 is an OR gate, a 2-input OR gate maybe, I think. So that's not a very high parts count, and we could definitely build all of that into a GAL. But you see, they don't have these 245s on the XTCF card, and I think that is because with the CF interface, you don't have to have any wait states, because it's, you know, the CF card is as fast as the bus, so it doesn't have to, you know, tell the machine to pause while it's fetching data from the physical medium like you would with a, you know, regular IDE disk drive. But, you know, especially on a daughter board on this thing, we'd have all kinds of space in here, you know? I mean, look at all that space, right? And if we use like a 22 V10 gal, I'm sure we can build the functionality of those, what were they, NAND gates, into the gal as well. So that would be one big, hell, we could surface mount it, I guess. I kind of hate to do that, but if we ran out of space, we could. So that we'd have a 24-pin SOIC package there, and then 3 LS245s for an actual, honest-to-God 16-bit IDE interface rather than just an 8-bit CF interface. You know what I'm saying? That's with no ROM, but I assume that with a 22V10 we would still be able to do the address decoding for the ROM, so that would just be another SOIC package on here for a ROM. And if we couldn't fit it all on with SOIC, I hate soldering PLCC stuff. I always get bridges underneath of it, and then there's nothing to do but like desolder the whole fucking chip and clean up the board and the chip and resolder it. I'm not very good at that, but I don't know, man. I think, especially with a daughter board, I think, you know, we put the ROM and the PAL on one side of the top of the board, and then we can probably put all 3 of the 245s on the other side of the board, and we won't have to fuck around with any jumper settings. We'll just hardwire it to, you know, the right I/O port and ROM memory location to save space. And I think we can do it, man. I may take my meter to this bad boy and try to reverse engineer this circuit, because if this PAL is only doing address decoding, which is probably the case, so I'm going to go work on that in addition to my riser CAD files. All right. Thanks for joining me. I know this hasn't been very interesting today, but you know, there's a lot of grunt work to do before we can actually fire up the soldering iron. And the sooner I get that done, the sooner we can have some PC boards in the mail. And if we're very, very lucky, I won't fuck anything up too badly that can't be fixed with some bodge wires. So, yeah. See you next time. Thanks for joining me.